You're listening to Guts and Grind with Siju and Sajin, making the real estate journey accessible to anyone.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Guts and Grind. Thank you for clicking. Thanks for joining us. You are watching episode 42 of this show. I can't believe we're turning them out, man. Siju, how's it going?
It's going good, and I agree, man. These episodes I think they're small, they're good, like we always promise. They're gonna be small, bite size, and good, just good, full of content. But it takes everybody step by step, and hope you guys are enjoying the series on how to prep your house up.
Yeah, and so like the effort of doing that, the small bite-size episodes, is to make it a conversation as well. We want to have something where we could lob out some information, and then if there's questions that you could like deep dive, we'd love to hear from you. So as just a preface, like feel free to comment if you have any questions or concerns, or even just like additional information that you want to share with people that might be watching or reading. Please do, please do. So to get rolling, this episode is about listing the property. So in this series, we're talking about you've attained the property and the steps you need to take to get things ready, right? And so you've made it to getting utilities turned on, you got the repairs confirmed, like you fixed everything, you got the place professionally cleaned, and now it's like you got the professional pictures listed, all that stuff, everything's there, right? So now the whole effort is like listing the actual property, right? And in my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong, Siju, there's really just two ways of doing it, right? You could use a realtor, which is what I do. I use a realtor to post it on the multiple listing service, MLS. And I've done this once before. I've DIY'd it where I put a little for lease sign on the lawn, I put a number, and I post it on Craigslist, and I just wait. Wait for people to call, and the magical person will come, right? So I'll tell you, the one time I did it, the one time I posted it myself, was the worst. It was the worst because you get like millions of calls. Like there's so many calls that come in, and they're like half serious. Some are like 100% serious, or some are just inquiring, which is, it's fair, like they just want to know, right? But when you have a full-time job and you're doing other things, you got a family, it's hard to like track all that stuff and like deal with all the fluff of like people just kind of asking and like undercutting you on the price and stuff like that. So my preference is to use a realtor just because they deal with all that. They do the proper vetting. Oh, and I guess I should say the one time I did do it myself was the worst tenant. It was the worst tenant I ever got. Like, cause I didn't properly vet. I didn't know what to look for when I was doing that. And so that was just like, and like maybe in the future I'll do it again. But because of that experience, I'm like, no, it's just not worth it. It's not worth all the trouble and effort. Cause like it's huge. Having the right tenant is what makes or breaks your business, right? Because like you take all this time, like everything we talked about in previous episodes, you're building up to get the right tenant in there, a long-term tenant. You don't want like quick turnaround or people that are going to give you headaches or evictions and things like that. You don't want to deal with that. So Siju, what are your thoughts, man? Like what's your feel? Cause I know like you're kind of on the fence, right? Like you've done both, right? So like, what's your opinion?
I'm not on the fence. I'm on one side of the fence. I will say, so I had a similar experience, but I will say that the two method that you have is correct. You can either list it on the MLS, right? And the nice part about now is there's so many platforms, right? Like if you don't do just a yard in the sign, obviously, you can do Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist. I mean, there's so many, like you can be your own marketer, right? So I'm not saying that that's a bad option. Obviously, you'll save money because the commission that you pay to the realtor comes to you, right? Normally, what ends up happening is the first month's deposit and the security deposit have to be paid by the tenant, and half of that goes to the realtor because they're the one that found the tenant for you, right? So you can save on that side of it if you're doing it yourself by doing the sign like Sajin did in front of the yard, or doing it through Craigslist or Facebook. But you run the risk of, if you're not vetting them properly by putting them through right criminal background checks, checking their pay stubs, which you have to do all that, what you would normally pay for a realtor to do. And I think we mentioned in past episodes, once you get into a flow of these things, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want 100 calls to say, hey, is your house available? What house? No, or it's just random calls. And I'm like, they're not serious about it, or hey, is your house? I'll come by today, and they won't show up, So it's hit or miss, but in my experience, I would rather just go through a realtor. The realtor will It's usually when it's on the MLS, it's other realtors reaching out to the realtor about the home. So it's not just individual people, and because you'll have to kind of file out all that riffraff, right? But I will say I did have one experience. My first home that I rented out, literally, put a sign out in the yard just like you did, Saj, and somebody literally drove by, ex-military guy. He's just moving in just to do his PhD. And I mean, and it was a super nice guy, family, 3 kids. And he was probably one of my best tenants, I mean, but it was also, yeah, it was also in a decent area, right? So the area matters too when you're doing that. So if you're in a C-class neighborhood, as we kind of mentioned, or B-class, and you put a sign out, you can potentially get the wrong type of clientele, but it's always hit or miss. So I'm not saying one way is wrong or not, but I prefer the MLS and list it through an agent.
I'm the same way, man. Like, it's kind of like I feel like we kind of circle back, like you DIY a lot of things, right? Like, I could do electrical, I could do plumbing, I could list it, I could clean. We do all these things, and then once you do it, you realize the value of it, right?
Oh yeah.
Like, you pay the first month's rent to your realtor when you hired them to find a tenant, right? I gladly do that now. I'm so happy to do that because I know the work that's involved. It takes a lot to vet these people and like confirm that they work where they work, and like all these references and all these type of things that, like, to be honest, I just don't have time for because I have a 9 to 5 job, right? And so, like, for me, it's better to just vend out the work that I can't do or I don't want to do, right?
But the beauty of this is like the war stories that we have, right? Of going through what we go through, the scars that we have is good, because like you literally learn like what other people like that we hire out to do actually do, right? So you see the value in that, because otherwise, if we never did it, I mean, I don't think we'll see the value in it. And we may say, oh, well, I could do that myself, and then until you go through their shoes, until you're actually wearing those shoes, man, like you'll be a complete different perspective, right? So
yeah, you appreciate it way more, right? And then
100%.
like the whole, and to be honest, I view it as like it's a people game. The business is it's a people business, right? And you want to be able to have good relationships, and you don't want to have situations that's going to put a rift between people, right?
Oh yeah.
Because like at the end of the day, you're all on the same team. We're trying to get to the same goal. And so when you have a better perspective of where they're coming from, you have a little bit more sympathy, or you have a little bit more understanding of like, yeah, you deserve that money. Like I don't try to undercut people or try to get discounts and stuff like that, because I just know it just takes a lot of work.
Yep. I mean, with that said, you've basically done everything as an owner of a house. So once you've picked up your house, this is the end of where you've prepped it up. It's perfectly done. It's handed over to the renter or realtor or whoever else to kind of get their job done as far as finding a spot or tenant for you. So this wraps up this series of it. Our next series 4, is literally going to be about how to pick that tenant out. What are the steps that go into that? It may be, screening the tenants, as I kind of hinted on a little bit, the lease agreement details. We'll kind of dive into that for the next series. But yeah, up to here, I mean, really now you're just kind of handing it off to, either the realtor, or maybe you're putting it on Facebook Marketplace. I don't know.
maybe you are. I mean, like, I'm not saying don't do it. Like we benefited from the knowledge of it.
Yep.
But now that we've done it, I don't want to do that again.
Well, the other thing also is like, if you do it yourself, you also, there's a lot of time. I mean, we always talk about time, right? Because I think that's the most important thing. As I get older, that's what I really cherish is, right? If you have families, you have friends, mom and dads that you want to take care of, things like that. I mean, time is the biggest thing, right? So if you're doing it yourself, if somebody wants to see the property, that means you have to go there. You have to be there, open the door up, right? I mean, because you're not letting anybody random come in there. So there's that element of it too. So keep those things in mind. I think the show is always giving you perspective on what all avenues you can kind of go, and obviously pick and choose whatever avenue you want to, but make sure there's no roadblock in that avenue, right? Like, we don't want you to like not start. That's not the premise of this show.
Correct. Yeah, that you're 100% right, because all we're doing is giving our perspective, and by no means are we like the end all be all. We have all the knowledge, and you should do it exactly the way we do it, because there's many different ways to skin this cat. Like you could do it yourself, like, and maybe you should, because you learn, or maybe you are like, hey, I know I'm a doctor and I can't I'm not gonna stop doing my doctor work just to show a house to some rando, right? So like you said, like it's perspective. Like you have to know who you are and what you're capable of doing, and none of it should stop you from doing this, because like it's just a great way to build wealth for yourself and for your family. The best thing you could do is just start. And so our whole goal of all these series and this show in general is to give you a little bit more confidence and to have a conversation about, you know, how to get this thing done, you know. And like again, like we're not the experts, but we know a little bit. We just want to share what we know. So with
Yep.
that said, this wraps up series 3 of season 2. Keep looking out for season 4. That's coming up very soon. If you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching and sticking with us. Make sure you like, subscribe, all that good stuff. You know, all the YouTubers say, I guess, you know, just kind of do all those kind of things for us. Share with people. If you think this is helpful, share this with your friends. More importantly, leave comments. We want to know what you're thinking, and we want to be able to like just have a two-way conversation. So
It's called hold on, it's called rigging the algorithm. So make sure you hit that like button so that you get more of our videos. So that's what it's called.
Yeah. You know what? Do us a favor. You know, we're giving this to you for free, right?
Yeah.
So just hit the thumbs up, like it. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Don't mentally like it. Physically hit that button, like it, man. Just joking. Boop. With that said, thanks so much for watching. We'll catch y'all later.
Peace.
Thanks for listening to Guts and Grind with Siju and Sajin. Be sure to tune in next time.